Professor Emiliano Bosio, an associate professor from Toyo University, Japan, to share about his book, The Emergence of the Ethically Engaged University, Revisiting the Role of the Modern University in Shaping Ethically Informed Individuals for the Globally Interconnected and Contemporary Society. For participants, if you would like to pose a question, please drop it in the Q&A box. And I pass the time now to Dr. Professor Emiliano Bosio.
All right, thank you very much. Can everyone hear me? Perhaps you want to send me a message in the chat if you can hear okay. If you cannot hear me as well, please send a message and we'll try to fix it. I want to thank the Global Citizenship Foundation for inviting me to discuss my recent book, The Emergence of the Ethically Engaged University. It's a real pleasure to be here today. So my name is Emiliano Bosio. I'm a professor of global education based in Japan, and I wrote multiple scientific articles in the field of global citizenship, humanistic and transformative education, as well as social justice and social change. And some of my recent books include Conversations on Global Citizenship Education, published by Routledge, Global Citizenship Education in the Global South, published by Broll, and The Emergence of the Ethically Engaged University, published by Springer, which I will discuss today. And so my most recent journal publications are diverse. Most recently, I published with Professor Gardelli and Carlos Alberto Torres, exploring values and knowledge in global citizenship education, revolutionary critical pedagogy and critical global citizenship education with Peter McLaren, ethical global citizenship education with Anne Chattel, and critical pedagogy and global citizenship education with Henri Giraud. I thought it would be interesting to copy and paste some of the links to my articles. Let's see if we can do this in the chat. So everyone can access when you have the time. And also, you might want to get in touch with me. So I put together some of the links where you can actually find my work and send me an email if you're interested. You can find all the information in the actual chat, I believe. So I just want to add a couple of more information regarding forthcoming projects. So currently I'm editing with Professor Youssef Akdid, who is based in South Africa, a new special issue in the UNESCO IB Prospects, Comparative Journal of Curriculum Learning and Assessment on the Values and Pedagogy of Global Citizenship Education from a decolonial perspective. And I'm also editing a new book titled Value Creating Education with Prof. Maria Guayardo, who is based here in Japan. So if you're interested in global citizenship and values-based education, please do get in touch. So my talk today will focus on the emergence of the Ethically Engaged University, which is my most recent book, and I will focus on three core points. The first point is how the idea of the book, The Emergence of the Ethically Engaged University, developed, and how the Ethically Engaged University is conceptualized in this book, and then the book key themes, and then lastly, why the idea of the Ethically Engaged University is at the same time needed and powerful. So let me begin by discussing how the idea of the book, The Emergence of the Ethically Engaged University, developed and how it is discussed by scholars in this book. So the emergence of the Ethically Engaged University presents a collection of theoretically and practically grounded chapters from internationally recognized scholars located in both the Global North and the Global South, who have shared their experiences and perspectives on the role of the modern university as a public good institution, ethically engaged in social transformation. And so to reflect this, the book situates the discussion around the engaged university within an ethical paradigm informed by ethical values, for example, justice, fairness, equity, respect, and integrity and knowledge. And so the ethically engaged university is informed and inspired by the idea of a global ethic. And this is a conceptualization of the university that makes a specific commitment to learners' emancipation of the human spirit toward the principles of global justice. And so an ethically engaged university is one that is more inclusive, differentiating, permeable, ethically reflective, integrative of experience, but also socially responsible. And so examples of these different types of ethically engaged universities are the University of Wisdom, for example, the Civic University, the Human Rights University, as well as the Ecological University. And so if discussed in this perspective, an ethically engaged university can promote a pedagogy of hope, or alternatively, an ethical pedagogy, demonstrating that higher education and universities have not fallen short of exploring issues of politics or morality. And therefore, this book is focused on informing strategies for envisioning the role of the modern day university in super complex societies in a manner that looks farther than approaches that are passive, market driven, or disorderizing, and incorporate a philosophy that is centered on values and ethics and informed by principles of mutuality, reciprocity, and social responsibility. So universities and colleges are definitely in a continuous process of reinventing themselves to be more relevant to their primary missions and society's needs. And yet, these debates have been often placed in the context of quality assurance, unity of resource access, and competence. But what has often been lost in such discussions have been the aims and ethical values of the university and the far-reaching purposes of higher education systems. And so the central questions that this book on the emergence of the ethically engaged university addresses are: what knowledge and values should the university create to shape new forms of ethics and new thinking about societies and communities? Or how can universities contribute to society, communities, and more in general, how they can contribute to the common good? And I believe that it is timely to refocus on such key issues in higher education, because such issues are universal and perpetual. In other words, they permeate our conception of society. So, one of the theoretical and empirical perspectives that are examined by the contributors to this book, The Emergence of the Ethically Engaged University, is the concept of defining the changes that contribute to advancing our society towards social, cultural, civical, and political rights. For example, the right to life, liberty, and free speech, and particularly in line with the Universal Declaration of Human Rights promoted by the UNESCO Commission report of Jacques Delors, Learning the Treasure Within, which both stress the significance of living in harmony, living in harmony with one another and the rest of the planet. And here I use planet with a capital P because there is no planet B. So one of the areas that the book addresses is exactly this importance of focusing on the well-being of our planet. So from this perspective, this is a little bit of background, but from this perspective, the Ethical Engaged University, as it is explored by the contributors to this book, might play a unique role in society via its central task of developing well-rounded global citizens for the challenges of this super complex society and growing neoliberal globalization. So this was a little bit of background about the book. Now let's enter into the core of the book by discussing the main themes and the structure of the book. So the emergence of the ethical engaged university is divided into three themes. each team having a number of chapters covering diverse approaches and evidence from a range of countries in the global north and in the global south. And we particularly worked hard on including perspectives from the global south, which are very much needed in this discussion on the ethical engaged university. And so each of the chapters encourages the reader to pay attention to what knowledge and values an ethical engaged university should create to shape new forms of ethics and new thinking about society and communities. So it's a sort of a visionary perspectives, the emergence of the ethical engaged university. And so the first theme, critical moral consciousness, student relationships, civic dialogue, environmental sustainability, and community engagement in the ethical engaged university, includes my chapter, the Ethical Engaged University for Critical Consciousness Development, as well as chapter penned by David Killick, Manzon, Lioma, Gomarasca, Mayer, Boada, Gaxo, Ferrer, Wimpany, Ahmad, Mohamed, Nielchin, Feidling, among others. So we have a vast range of contributors within the first team of this book. And the second team is Ubuntu, civic responsibilities, and the potential of the metaverse for the transforming the digital divide in the ethical engaged university, with chapters penned by Vaktit, Nyotuka, Voltaire, Shelah, and the Meta. And then the third and last theme is engagement and social transformation in the ethical engaged university, which includes chapters penned by Fu, Hio, Gregorutti, Delgado, Palacios, Vieira, Larid, and Camacho from a vast range of countries located in the global north and the global south. And this last theme includes the final chapters, which I co-edited with Prof. Gregorutti, titled Value Pluralistic Vision of the Ethical Engaged University, grounded in elements of critical moral consciousness, student relationships, civic dialogue, and responsibility, as well as environmental sustainability, Ubuntu, and social transformation responsibility that might find relevance internationally. So as you can tell, the book embraces a wide range of themes with diverse scholars located in the global north and the global south in the field of international comparative education, educational philosophy, and higher education. So I will conclude by addressing a key question, and perhaps this is the core of this discussion today on the emergence of the ethical engaged university. And the question is, why is the book, The Emergence of the Ethical Engaged University, at the same time needed and powerful? So the answer is quite straightforward. This book is needed and powerful from three different perspectives, at least. So firstly, although portions of publications have focused on an analysis of a university's role and mission, it is quite rare that the voices of university educators are included in the literature, or that distinctive ethical approaches to teaching and learning, as well as community engagement at the local, but also the global level, are given detailed attention. And then secondly, the book is the first publication dedicated to an ethical analysis of universities' engagement with the local and global community, featuring scholars located both in the global north and the south, who possess a solid experience in the field of international studies and comparative education. And then lastly, this book provides a roadmap to practical and relevant academic experiences on community engagement and ethical approaches to pedagogy on an international level. And so from this perspective, this book, The Emergence of the Ethical Engaged University, as Professor Hans de Witt suggests in his forewords to our book, this book appeals for the higher education sector to move away from the market-oriented neoliberal direction it has taken for decades toward a more socially responsible and ethically engaged system. And so the book is powerful because it encourages readers to acknowledge that universities have the potential to contribute significantly to the creation of a society with a greater justice, respect for human dignity, common collective well-being, and world peace. And so when discussed in this way, the ethical engaged university can encourage a pedagogy of hope, a pedagogy of empowerment, and an ethical pedagogy, or even what Columbia University professor David Hansen refers to as a poetics of teaching, whereby higher education institutions, educators, and learners can demonstrate that they have not become naive in their assessment of political and moral issues. And so the researchers that contributed to this volume, this book, did an excellent job in examining the ethically engaged university as more than just service delivery, because it is and it should be a university type which promotes conscientization or critical consciousness development, a notion developed by the pedagogue Paulo Freire. And so conscientization refers to gaining a deep knowledge of the world, which allows for the perception and exposure of social and political contradictions, as well as identity development to the transformations of values, knowledge, skills across generations. And so Freire's concept of critical identity development particularly resonates with this book on the emergence of the ethically engaged university, because it is a reminder that higher education should not be considered as a sort of a transcendent activity removed from the challenges of daily life. Rather, university teaching and learning should be about those daily classroom pedagogic practices aimed at promoting and enhancing learners' humanity and critical consciousness, as the educators in this book demonstrated in excellent ways. So I want to conclude, before leaving space for questions and discussions, I want to conclude with the words of the renewed educator Nixon, which suggests that any serious debate about the nature of the university must also be a debate about how we can live and learn to live together in a world of difference. And that debate can never be reduced to exclusively technical or economic considerations. Thank you. I want to post this quote in the chat so everyone can perhaps ask questions, and we can initiate a discussion on the book. Thank you. You're welcome to ask questions, perhaps jump in and share your opinion about what I said. Anything is welcome. I can see several participants, perhaps Grace. I can see Nomokisa, Nicole, Bridget, Mayanka. If anyone wants to jump in. Okay, wonderful question. Wonderful question. So there is a lot of talk, says Mayanka, about ethics lately, but there is a whole generation which has been left out of this. How do we reach them? Okay, wonderful question. See if we can. Okay, I just copied the question from Mayanka in the chat. I hope everyone can see it. Okay, so this is a wonderful question, and I believe that in a way, this book, The Emergence of the Ethically Engaged University, is a first step to try to answer your question. And I believe that the reason why there has been a generation, a whole generation left out from this discussion on ethical values, morals, social justice, contributing to the common good, is that education itself did not fully accomplish its mission, particularly higher education, where learners are supposed to discuss more having more engaging discussions on topics related to ethics, values, contributing to the common good. It seems to me, and I write about this in my chapter, The Ethically Engaged University for Critical Consciousness Development, It seems to me that education nowadays is very much focused on fostering global workers. There is really an extreme focus on getting learners sort of ready for the international job market, but there is much less focus on discussing um, social justice, sustainability, the importance of protecting the environment, participating in the local community and the global community. I want to also stress that because I published quite a lot on the topic of global citizenship education. Global citizenship education cannot be detached from the whole discussion on what happens in the local community. So when it comes to discussing global citizenship education, the Ethical Engage University, there should always be a reference to the local, because the local and the global are never detached, separated, right? But coming back to your question, I believe that the fact that there is a major part of the new generation that has been left out from this discussion of ethics, ethical values, the importance of being engaged in the community, creating values for society, in society, is because education itself did not, for now, accomplish its mission to educate critical thinkers. There is, and I want to emphasize this once again, there is an extreme focus on test taking, job readiness, skills, important as they are, but much less focus on ethical values. So in a way, the Ethical Engage University is a sort of a first step to initiate a discussion about the importance of ethics and ethical values. Okay, another question from Mayanka. Environment and biodiversity has taken the toll the most. Also, peace and tolerance, coexistence are suffering as a result. Okay, yes. Yes, it's a comment, and I believe it's an interesting comment, Mayanka, because yes, within the old discussion, for example, on the emergence of the Ethical Engage University, there is a particular, at least in my chapter, but I've seen also chapters from other contributors to our book, an emphasis on the importance of the environment, the relationship between humans and non-humans. This is another area that is not fully addressed in the modern university, with exceptions, of course. There are really dedicated educators who are discussing this relationship between humans and non-humans, biodiversity, environment, but it should be much more stressed and much more discussed in the university. And so one of the aspects of the emergence of the Ethical Engaged University is exactly an emphasis on environment, ecology, eco-critical perspectives, eco-pedagogy. All of this has to be part of this vision of the Ethical Engaged University. Okay, any other questions, comments? Okay, there is a question from the staff, I believe, the support. With AI disrupting various sectors, how would the university be affected? Okay, so the whole discussion on AI, artificial intelligence, is important. It all depends on how it is used. And I believe I've seen several articles discussing AI in relation to the university and how this would affect and shape the university education now and the future. And I believe it all depends how it is used. If it's used in a way that creates and shapes sustainability, then it's welcome. But if it's used in a way that just spreads fake news and fake information, especially there is a risk that already with our SNS and new technologies, young people are reading few books. But if AI becomes a tool where everything is ready and accessible without efforts, without reading, without developing a critical mindset, then it becomes a little bit dangerous. All right, any other questions? We still have about 15 minutes, so you're welcome to ask. Of course, if you don't have questions, we can finish a little bit earlier. It's not a problem. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Some professor might want to create a change in the education. However, the top administrative level is reluctant to change. So how can we get those top level make a real change in their mission and goals? Not just in terms of mission, not just mission statement without actions. Okay. Yes, this is a really good question. This is a very, very central core question that is in a way related to these whole discussions on the emergence of the ethical engaged university. It's always hard to convince the so-called top level people to make changes in the direction of engagement with the social issues, contributing to the common good, taking care of environmental issues, all of the discussion that I introduced today. In other words, I believe ethical values are difficult to sort of be implemented within the real life of the university because, again, and I come back to the initial point, because there is all this focus on, there is also this market neoliberal oriented focus in higher education institutions where everything seems to be focusing on test taking, job readiness, getting students prepared for the international job market, which on the one hand it's understandable, but it cannot be the only and primary focus of higher education and higher education institutions. The mission and the goals should be much more social justice oriented, oriented toward creating dialogic perspectives about different groups of people. All of these should be then reflected in society. What we can see today is that we have growing divisiveness among people with different views. And so what's happening is that there is not a type of education that is helping our young people to respect differences, accept differences, and try to understand how people different from us understand society. And therefore, because this dialogue essentially is lacking, what is happening is that we have this growing divisiveness in society. And one of the core reasons is that education is lacking. There is not a type of education teaching our young people how to promote a constructive dialogue, how to mediate situations where we have really dangerous conflicts. Even our leaders, our leadership today is not educated primarily to try to make our planet, our society more peaceful. They seem to be more educated to just take care of the national interest, economy, and so on, but much less educated at looking into values, promoting peace, and so on. And this is a real problem because it goes from the top to the bottom, right? So the leadership is not educated for ethical values such as social justice, the common good, peaceful dialogue, mediation. They're just educated to get numbers done, right? So the better economy, peel, and so on. But there is no discussion about real values and moral values for society. And then it goes down to the majority of people educated to succeed from the standpoint of view of their careers, but much less educated in discussing what can be done for society and for the common good. So it's a problem that goes from the top to the bottom of how our society at the moment understands education, and specifically because today we are talking about higher education, the university itself. So very hard to convince people at the top to change their mindset. Yes, that's right. That's right. I think there is often, to be honest, not willingness to sacrifice. There is not willingness to fight in a way for change. I believe nowadays. I rarely see this. Um, Even publishing about this book on the emergence of the ethical engaged university has been a challenge in a way, because you need to find the scholars who are open to discuss certain themes, ethical values, environmental issues, um, local to global engagement for sustainability, contributing to the common good, citizenship, global citizenship, and all of that. Not everyone is ready for this type of discussions. And I believe this is representative, unfortunately, of how people in higher positions, because at the top level, executives understand higher education nowadays. Again, I want to stress that the focus nowadays seems to be about numbers, about helping students to succeed in international job market, but much less focused on fostering critical thinkers who can potentially help this really variety of interconnected issues that we are facing today, ranging from global pandemic, uh, international conflicts. Everyone knows about what's going on in between Russia and Ukraine. Now there is the whole problem about Israel, Hamas, and all of that. We can see that there is a growing um, range of issues that are not only local. They are local primarily, but then they are reflected on the global stage. And so you need a type of education and a type of university that is able to educate young people to really face these issues with an approach that is not only divisive, but that is constructive, that is open to dialogue, open to listen, open to find solutions for the common good. I think this is at the moment is not emphasized enough. Yeah, I mean, I don't think, Mayanka, related to your comment, I don't think that we need to really convince this generation. Also, because it's very difficult to generalize in a sense that not all people are the same. Some people, some young people, are very much engaged in their and taking actions for the common good. Some others are more focused on their career and job prospects. So it's difficult to convince. I think the education system should change first, and then naturally and gradually, when you are educated with certain ethical values, when you are taught that yes, it's important that you succeed in your job, but it's also very, very important that you grow up as an individual ready to help others, to understand others, to appreciate diversity rather than judging diversity. So I think first the educational system needs to be changed gradually, toward a more ethical perspective. That's why I felt the need to put together this book on the emergence of the ethical engaged university, because it's also a vision, a potential vision, a first step for starting a conversation about how, in which direction the universities should try to transform themselves. Because also, coming back to the question that was asked before, the so-called top level people need some sort of inspiration, because they don't know really where to go in some cases, even though perhaps they have years of experience, right? So it is our job as scholars, researchers, learners, teachers, to really provide input even to top level people, our leadership, our politicians, and so on. Sometimes it looks like a big task, but I think ideas can be shared quickly through social media, through publications, conferences like this. So the message should be loud, should be clear, and get across as much as possible. So it's not impossible. I'm optimistic. I'm optimistic, to be honest. I think it's possible to change the way we approach education. It is possible to contribute to the common good and have a different society that we have seen today, with a growing divisiveness and lack of respect, lack of understanding of diversity. All of this can be changed. It's not easy, but it can be done. Okay, I don't see other questions, so perhaps we can close here. Okay, if anyone has any final questions, otherwise, question in QA. Okay, let's see. Okay, yes. How to move towards a global citizenship education when it feels like some countries are going to other way while benefiting from oil agreements, others are reluctant to accept. Okay, I think it's yes. Okay. So this is a good question. As you know, I published extensively on global citizenship education. And as I mentioned before, the whole discussion of picturing and envisioning an ethical engaged university which promotes critical consciousness and global citizenship in critical ways is very important. In terms of your question, I believe it is even more important, Circe, if I pronounce your name correctly, in the sense that it connects to what I was saying before, that our leaders need input, inspiration. They've been themselves educated to succeed in what they do in their job, in bringing up numbers, trying to enhance our economy. That's what they are thinking at the moment. They are much less focused on climate change. They are much less focused on issues that are nowadays very important. They've not been educated for that, unfortunately. And this is not, in a way, my answer is not an excuse for our leadership not to do their job, in a sense of thinking about climate change, thinking about promoting social justice, more equitable societies, helping those who are in needs, trying to resolve conflicts rather than encourage conflicts. All of this mindset nowadays seems to be forgotten, and because our leadership has not, unfortunately, been educated to promote such ethical values. That's why the emergence of the ethical engaged university, this whole discussion, becomes very important, because the only way to change our future societies is to educate our young people, who will be the future leaders, to care much more about ethical values, including social justice, sustainability, which of course involves the whole discussion on climate change. So, Circe, I believe this has to be changed first by changing and initiating a discussion on what does it mean to educate for ethical values, and this whole vision I shared today through the recent book, The Emergence of the Ethically Engaged University, as I said, is just the first step to initiate all this discussion of changing higher education for the common good. Okay, the moment I'm in the Q&A section, I don't see any other questions. Anyone else want to jump in? Okay, so I believe we can close here, perhaps. And I want to thank everyone for the very interesting questions. And again, a pleasure to be part of this year conference, the ICT 2023. I want to thank Global Citizenship Foundation for organizing this very interesting event.
Thank you so much, Dr. Professor Emiliano Bosio, for sharing your books on the mission of university in instilling ethical values in students, as well as teaching us how to challenge the idea of neoliberal market and capitalism in our society. I believe the open conversation among scholars about the ethical aspects of university is the first step of transforming education. We really appreciate having you today in our session and all our participants who attended this session. Looking forward to seeing you all in the next session. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.